I mean, if you want to sit here and look at everyone, you can. They won't see you. They won't see you. I don't think. Hare Krishna. Haribol. Christina, where are you? What country?
Uruguay.
Uruguay.
Yes.
Oh, fantastico.
Okay.
Uruguay. I will come to Uruguay.
Yes,
Maybe.
I know.
Maybe.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, Prema. We're having Bhagavatam class.
Hi Maharaj, Hare Krishna, Dandavats Pranam. Nice to see you.
Hare
So
Krishna.
now the next question is,
What's
what's the verse? Hari Bolo.
Yeah, you're welcome to the Hare Krishna Africa platform.
111.25.
So I'll place the proper Jara the Madhav and then we can continue from there. Is that okay?
I didn't hear what you said.
Okay.
Can you say it again? Bad internet. I have bad internet. That's a problem. So I didn't hear. There he is. But I didn't hear what you said. Or maybe you have bad internet and I have good internet. Mine's okay. And ISKCON Africa, your internet is moving slow. I think. Oh, they're showing a film of Prabhupada. Okay. Chanting Jai Radhamada. I don't hear anything. Hare Close. Anyway, she reminds me of you. She's in Austin. Janaki's from Austin. Austin. No, she lives in Austin. Online. The last 2 years, many people met me online, but I've never met in person. Madhva Madhava Kunjabihari Madhva Kunjabihari. I think they have slow internet.
Hare Krishna. So I'll put a verse on the screen and we can start. Or you want to chant the Mangala prayers first? You want to go ahead first with the Mangala prayer, or I should put the verse now? Let's go.
Sorry. Yeah, we can put it on the screen. Good
Okay,
idea.
go.
You will put, or you want me to put? I can put. He lets me. No, I can't. It's coming. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nitya. You all have to mute yourself. Somebody not muted? We're hearing music in the background. Hare Krishna Africa. Can you mute yourself? So we can continue. I don't think I can mute them. Oh, well, we have background music. Yadapi Dwara Kaukasham. Navitripyanti hi drashaha. Sriyodhamangam achutam. Sriyodhamangam achutam. Nityam nirikshamananam. Nityam nirikshamananam. Yadapi dhorakokasham. Yadapi dhorakokasham. Navritripyanti drashaha. Drashaha. Shriyodhamangam achyutam. Shriyodhamangam achyutam. Nityam nirikshamananam. Nityam nirikshamananam. Whoa. The verse. Okay, word meanings. Nityam, regularly, always. Can't say it because you can whisper it. Nirikshamananam. Oh, we just lost.
Sorry.
I think we entered the third world here. I'll just do it myself. I'll put it in the chat. That doesn't work in the chat.
Sorry, I was trying to put off the background and song.
Yeah. Can you turn off your microphone because we hear the music in the back?
There is a YouTube on the back.
Yeah. Can everybody turn off their mics, please? As the host, you can mute everybody, right?
So it's from my hand. Actually, I was on YouTube because I was trying to put the class on YouTube. So before you came in,
Okay.
so that was, so it's playing. YouTube was playing along. So I can put back the screen now.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Okay, we're back.
Hare Rama. Okay. So we're doing the word meanings. Yat, although, api, in spite of, Dwaraka Okasham, the inhabitants of Dwaraka, na, never, vitripyanti, satisfied, vitripyan, it's actually vitripyanti. He, exactly, drishaha, sight, sriyaha, beauties, dhamma angam, the bodily reservoir, achutam, the infallible. Translation: the inhabitants of Dwarka were regularly, I can't speak anymore. The inhabitants of Dwarka were regularly accustomed to look upon the reservoir of all beauty, the infallible Lord, yet they were never satiated. You want to repeat? Are you ready? Enthusiastic, full of poderosa, energy. The inhabitants of Dwaraka were regularly accustomed to look upon the reservoir of all beauty, the infallible Lord, yet they were never satiated. That sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? I thought when you look at Krishna, you would be satisfied. Okay, can we go to can you go up so we can read the purport? When the ladies of the city of Dwarka got up on the roofs of their palaces, they never thought that they had previously many times seen the beautiful body of the infallible Lord. This indicates that they had no satiation in desiring to see the Lord. Anything material seen for a number of times ultimately becomes unattractive by the law of satiation. Prabhu, can you mute everybody? Because everyone's not muted. And I would ask the devotee to mute themselves, but I can't pronounce their name. Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you. The law of satiation acts materially, but there is no scope for it in the spiritual realm. The word infallible, it's another point now. The word infallible is significant here. Because although the Lord has mercifully descended to the earth, he is still infallible. The living entities are fallible because when they come in contact with the material world, they lack their spiritual identity. And thus, the body materially obtained becomes subjected to birth, growth, transformation, situation, deterioration, and annihilation under the laws of nature. The Lord's body is not like that. He descends as he is and is never under the laws of the material modes. His body is the source of everything that be, the reservoir of all beauties beyond our experience. No one, therefore, is satiated by seeing the transcendental body of the Lord, because there are always manifestations of newer and newer beauties. The transcendental name, form, qualities, and entourage are all spiritual manifestations. And there's no satiation in chanting the holy name of the Lord. There's no satiation in discussing the qualities of the Lord, and there is no limitation of the entourage of the Lord. He is the source of all and is limitless. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, mukam karoti vachalam pangu langayate girim, yakripata maham vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam. Vanchakapatirubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. So I think we need to define the word satiation as Prabhupada's using it. Because as the Rolling Stones sang, I can't get no satisfaction. And so I won't sing you the song, but you probably have heard it. It's a favorite amongst devotees. I can't get no satisfaction, and I try. These are the lyrics. And I try, and I try, and I try. I can't get no satisfaction. So it sounds, one could think, it sounds like Prabhupada saying the same thing about Krishna, that Krishna will never satisfy you. So when Prabhupada says the devotees were looking at Krishna and they had no satiation, he means they could look at him forever and not be tired of looking at him. That's what he means. And say, you'll never be satisfied by looking at Krishna. Then you would think, well, why should I look then? Because I won't be satisfied. Better I just go do something that will satisfy my eyes. No, your eyes are satisfied, but Krishna is ever fresh. So it's always new. So in that sense, there's no satiation point. It's like you're eating and you always have an appetite. You could always eat more. Which would be a problem if you're trying to lose weight. But I'm sure you've taken prasadam that's very delicious and you got full. You ever take prasadam, it's really delicious. Then you get full and you're like, oh, I can't eat anymore, but I wish I could. Do you ever feel like that? It's so good, you wish you were still hungry so you could eat more. So that is what is meant by no satiation. There is this quality that Krishna has, which is so beautiful and distinct from the nature of matter, that every time you see him, it's like, I've never seen him before. Excuse me, I'm gonna make it a little lighter. Stay, don't go anywhere. Okay, better, right? So, there was a song, I guess this class is about songs. There's so many songs that describe Krishna. So this song, the lyrics for this song, it's just like the first time we met. Every time I see it, it was like the first time we met. But with Krishna, it's not like the first time. It's like I've never seen you before. It's like completely new. Isn't that interesting? So we have this word Nava Yovanam. Nava means new. Yovanam means young. So he's always new and fresh, never gets old. Apurvatam, it's like I've never seen him before. It's like the first time. So it's fresh and interesting. So as I was reading the purport, I was remembering something that I had been meditating on recently. And it's a very simple point, but we may not think of simple things in profound ways. Have you ever noticed, like sometimes something's very profound, but it's so simple, you don't realize it's profound? You ever have that experience? Yeah, you read something over and over and over. And then Christina, when I asked where you were, I thought you were in Africa because this was an African class. Yeah, it's Christina in Africa. Okay, that's why I was asking where you were. I knew where you were, but I thought you were in Africa. So, so I was contemplating this very, very simple point, but sometimes, you know, after you've been a devotee for many, many years or many, many decades, you get a realization about something that's very simple, but you get a very interesting realization like you never had before, although the realization is simple. So this has been my realization about the nature of Krishna consciousness, that it's so simple, but I think we neglect it. So as we know, matter is dead. It's not conscious, right? So you can't squeeze love out of matter because matter is dead, right? Sahadev, can you get love out of a rock? No. Can you get satisfaction out of a rock? And Sahadev says, yes, well, if it's Govardhan Shila, yes. No, we're talking about ordinary rocks. Can you get, you know, pick up a rock and throw it? Will that give you love? Will that give you knowledge? Will that, well, it might give you knowledge of gravity or something. Will that, but not real knowledge. Will that give you bliss? So, because matter is inherently a sat, not eternal, a chit, not conscious, and near ananda, not blissful, our whole journey in this material world is a constant futile effort to squeeze enjoyment out of matter, but matter is inherently not enjoyable. It's dead. It's not blissful. It's not, the nature of matter is not blissful. We all have bodies. Is your body blissful? You wake up in the morning and think, my body's blissful. It's beaming with ananda. I don't think so. Especially when you get my age. It's definitely, it's beaming with pain, not ananda, right? So we're dealing with matter, which is not conscious, is not blissful, not eternal, and not full of knowledge. And we're all hankering for eternity, bliss, and knowledge. That's a real problem, isn't it? Because we're trying to build something with building blocks that for which you can't build that thing. Like, what if I gave you bricks and the bricks were just made out of sand, and when you pile them on one another, they would crash. So this doesn't work. These aren't real bricks. So Prabhupada says all the time, he said, you're struggling in the material world. So what is the struggle? You're taking matter and you're trying to get the experience of spirit out of matter. That's a struggle because you can't. It's impossible. So beautiful song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You know that song? Alas, for those who spend their days in festive mirth and joy, the dazzling, deadly liquid forms, meaning the body, their hearts for air employ. They're trying to enjoy matter. So we're charmed by matter. We think there's bliss in matter, but matter is not composed of bliss. It's composed of near ananda, no bliss. And so one line in that song, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, women, flesh, women, wine, and flesh, no love will they bestow upon you. Now that's really interesting. Many philosophers and psychologists have said the basic human need is for love. The basic human hankering is to give love or be loved. Have you ever heard that? Yeah. To give love or be loved. That's the basic hankering, right? To give love and be loved. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, what are you trying to get in the world? What's enjoyable for the materialist? Wealth, women, wine, meat. And then he says, you can get those things, but they can't bestow upon you love. Prabhu, can you mute yourself again? You just unmuted. Yes, can you unmute? How do you pronounce his name? Coffee? Kapu? Kapu? Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Go
So,
ahead now, Prabhu.
so you may have had a great meal, not prasadam. You have a great meal and you say, I love that meal, but it actually doesn't bestow love in your heart, right? Maybe it bestows some temporary appreciation for the food or the cook, but actual awakening of love, it doesn't do anything. A glass of alcohol doesn't give you love. Fame doesn't give you love. And so we know all these people who have wealth and fame and they're miserable. It's obvious. So now, wouldn't it be nice to go to a place where the elements that are the elements for which the body is made and the elements for which everything is created are made out of Sat Chit Ananda, they're blissful. That's the nature of it. Like, imagine having a body that's blissful. I don't even think we could imagine that, could we? Could you imagine having a body that's made of bliss and knowledge? What would that look like? It's hard to imagine, right? So everything, the substance, the ingredient of everything, including the bodies, is made of bliss. Now, if that's true, would you have to look for bliss? I don't think so, because that's the nature of it, right? So now, a lot of times where devotees have difficulty is they'll say things like, yeah, I know what you're saying, but there's a lot of enjoyable things in this world. Beautiful things. That's true. Beautiful things to see, to hear, to taste. But when you understand the inherent nature of matter and spirit, it changes everything, because then you realize trying to be happy in matter is a futile attempt. It doesn't work. You just have to go to the place where everything is made of bliss. It's the composition of everything is ananda. So why would you have to look for happiness if everything's made of happiness? And you could say the composition of everything is made of love. It exists in everything. Our bodies are made of it. That's interesting, isn't it? I know that's a simple point, right? As I was saying, it's such a simple point, but it's so profound, isn't it? You agree? You must agree, or I will end class now if you don't agree with me. Hare Krishna. No, don't agree with me. Agree with Krishna. Now, Prabhupada talks about something interesting. I don't know if you picked this up. Did you pick up on this? Prabhupada said, the law of satiation. Can you have your phone? Can you? I don't think there's something, we're going to Google right now, the law of satiation, because I don't believe it's on Google. I believe that is something that Prabhupada established. Is it? Yeah. So in other words, Prabhupada created this or named this phenomena the law of satiation. Something is enjoyable up to a certain point, and after that, it becomes less and less enjoyable. The law of satiation, right? What's the best example of the law of satiation that you can think of? Something's enjoyable up to a certain point, and after a certain point, you still do the same thing, it becomes less enjoyable. I think of gum, chewing gum. I think that's the best example. What do you think, Braja Taruni? Is that a good example? Chewing gum? It's enjoyable, tasty. And after a while, you're chewing it, but there's no more satiation, but the law of satiation. There is no such thing as the law of satiation. Because Prabhupada means, by the law of satiation, he means you will get some satisfaction. It will hit a limit and then it'll go down. Right? I mean, that's what life is like every day, isn't it? Get what you want. It's an economic principle, yeah. So this law of satiation, Prabhupada made up that word. And it's something we can use when we're talking to people. So, do you know about the law of satiation? No. Why do we call it a law? Because when you notice a phenomena that exists in this world, you can call it a law if it's consistent. And it happens the same way. In every situation, it's a law. So, Prabhupada uses the word twice in the purport. It's quite interesting. So he says the law of satiation is a law for the material world. It's not a law for the spiritual world. It doesn't have scope in the spiritual world. So, so what is Prabhupada doing in this purport? If you analyze this purport from a certain angle, you could say Prabhupada is doing some advertising. Isn't he? Isn't Prabhupada advertising here? Like, he's advertising spiritual life. Don't you think? He's making an advertisement. Like, this is, look at your old car. It only goes 50 miles an hour and smokes and makes noise and bounces around. But there's this car like Mercedes that you don't even know you're on the road. You feel like you're, so why are you driving this old car? And he's like, you have this body in this world. Like, why are you driving that? There's another world where you have something better. So a lot of the preaching that Prabhupada had to do to us was what you could call advertising preaching. And why? Because even though it's obvious and self-evident that one should want spiritual life and dedicate themselves to it, Maya is so strong, she clouds us. So Prabhupada has to continue his advertising, No, these are the features of the spiritual world, like the features of a product, isn't it? This, you're buying a product. And so we give you a lifetime guarantee on spiritual life. Actually, we give you an eternal guarantee. It will always be fresh and new and it'll never break down. Would you buy a product that would always stay fresh and new and never break down? Here's a knife. It'll never get dull. It lasts forever. You think, okay, I'll buy that. It lasts forever. So that's basically what Prabhupada's doing. Here's two products, the material and the spiritual. Material is going to end, the spiritual is eternal. Why don't you buy the spiritual? And Prabhupada's saying, you hit a point where something's enjoyable, and then that's it. What to speak of that enjoyable thing that's not even half the story. The other half is that enjoyable thing becomes a cause of suffering eventually. But that never happens spiritually. Now, if you look at it and you analyze it, you start to feel like, I'm kind of stupid to think that I could be happy here. Do you ever feel like that before? Do you ever feel stupid when you're thinking, I could actually be happy material, and then you sit back and like think, did I just say that? That was stupid. Do you ever do that? Prema, you ever have that thought? You're thinking some thought and thinking, that was like the dumbest thought I've ever had. Thinking this would make me happy, right? And then we always wonder, say, why does Prabhupada keep saying the same thing? Because the books are being read by stupid people who need to hear it over and over again, because Maya comes and makes them stupid. I mean, that's her job. So, someone says, what is Maya? Say, the energy that makes you an idiot. It makes you do stupid things. That's called Maya, right? So if you look at Prabhupada's teachings from that point of view, then you can understand why he has to keep saying the same thing, because Maya keeps saying the same thing. Oh, you know, you just had bad luck. Go try it again. It'll work this time. Then you do it and it doesn't work, and you knew it wouldn't work. And so Maya made you stupid again. And so Prabhupada has to keep saying the same thing. That's why there's a lot of this basic information over and over again. Why would he have to say it if we get it, if we got it? So my personal realization is that the living entity has such an intensely strong desire to enjoy that the living entity is very optimistic about enjoyment, even after failing time and time again. I mean, how long have you been in the material world? You want to got your calculator out there? Can you put in like a zillion zeros and put a 1 in front of that? And that's like, you know, just a moment of your journey in this world. And in every life, we're doing the same thing. So now Prabhupada's trying to extricate us from that. And that's not easy because we're conditioned to think in a certain way. So that's why Prabhupada is saying all these things. You won't be happy. Krishna's unlimited. You'll never be satiated with Krishna. Okay. So now the next thing Prabhupada says, which is so simple, which we also forget. The living Krishna is infallible and we're fallible. We can be knocked out by the material world. So what does fallible mean? Okay. Did you ever meet anybody who said, I don't surrender to anything? I don't surrender to anybody. You ever meet someone like that? You know, the boxers before a boxing match and they say they're going to win. Well, only one of them wins. So both of them say, I'm going to win and I'm going to knock you out. And one of them gets knocked out, right? So, yeah. So if anyone ever said to Prabhupada, I don't believe in a God, I don't believe in a higher power, I don't surrender to anybody, what did Prabhupada say? You are already surrendered. To old age, you're surrendered. To disease, and you will someday have to surrender to death. So that's why the living entity is called infallible, because they're in a situation they can't do anything about that. So a lot of times Prabhupada would talk about this. And then he would say, I mean, you can imagine how hard it must have been for Prabhupada. Prabhupada's explaining these things clearly, and still we're running after Maya. You could die at any moment. One lecture, Prabhupada said, Parikshit Maharaj had 7 days to live. You do not know if you have even 7 moments. 7 minutes. I think Prabhupada said 7 seconds. The whole room was shaking like an earthquake hit it. The temple room. Prabhupada could knock the Maya out of you with a few words. So Prabhupada, you know, would have to remind us of the obvious. What's obvious? I'm not fallible. I can get old. I'm getting old every day. And someday this body's finished. Obviously. But Maya's job is to make you forget. So Prabhupada has to keep reminding us of this basic thing. Hello, Sahadev. Hello, Braja Taruni. Hello, Gopinath. Hello, Christina. I have a message for you. In case you forgot, you're not God. You're actually fallible. You know, we sometimes forget that, don't we? Yeah. Dvavimo purusha loke, shara akshara evacha. There are 2 kinds of living entities, the fallible and the infallible. Everyone is fallible except the liberated souls. Okay, So that solves that. That answers that question. And Prabhupada would say, so when death comes to your door, what are you going to tell him? Go next door. I don't need you. No, it doesn't work like that. Have any of you ever had an allergy, a really bad allergy? So bad that you can't stop sneezing, your eyes are itching, or your skin breaks out. You ever had that? It's out of control. You can't do anything. There's nothing to do. You could take some heavy drug, but even that, it takes a while to stop it. Because your whole body is out of control. Or you have an epileptic seizure or a panic attack, or your body's out of control. You can't control it. And it's so difficult, isn't it, to let go of the need to control when we actually don't control anything in the first place. Do you notice that? Have you ever tried to control something you were never in control of and never could be in control of? Yeah, that's like trying to control your wife or husband. Yeah, you never were in control and you never will be. So, but you know what I'm saying? Have you ever done that? You were never in control of this situation and you're trying to control it and you can't control it. Have you ever done it? If you're a normal human being, you have. And so Prabhupada's saying, no, you're infallible. It doesn't work like that. You can't control these things. I mean, you can pray, you can make effort, but many things we can't control. So it's a very simple reality, right? I was, you have all these verses. Krishna is what? Ishvara. What does Ishvara mean? Supreme controller. If he's the supreme controller, what does that make us? It makes us not the supreme controller because you can only have one. And we're Anu. We're a little bit. So we're little controllers. We have a little bit of control. Not much. Now, you all know that. You've heard that many, many times. How many times have you heard you're not the controller? 4,376. And that was just in the last week, right? How many times have you tried to control? 8,726. Like we hear it. We're always hearing it. So I'm going to give a lecture today. I'm going to say, my dear devotees, you are not the supreme controller. Nitya Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. I'll quote the verse, the Krishna's Arasabharabhritya. He's the controller. Everyone is his servant. And you're all going to go to sleep. I've heard that so many times. Isn't he going to say anything interesting? Does he think I don't understand that? Does he think I don't know anything? Of course, I'm not the supreme controller. And then you're driving and you're late and the light turns red and you can't get through and you're going to be late and you start chanting some mantras. You know those mantras? When you ever chant mantras when you're angry? Yeah, you start the curse mantras, right? And you just heard class that you're not the supreme controller. So, isn't that interesting? And this is one of the most basic teachings, and I think one of the most difficult to get, to accept things we can't control. Isn't it? Hare Krishna Africa, what do you say? Yes?
You're right. You're right. You're right with that.
Sometimes devotees, they write me and they say, I'm in this situation, and they're describing a situation which is really bad and there's nothing they can do about it. And sometimes all I could say is that one of the spiritual practices that we are most challenged with is to accept a situation that we don't like, that we can do nothing about it. And it's really a very elevated state of spiritual consciousness. So devotees write me or they speak to me about their problems. And a lot of times, if they were just able to accept it, they wouldn't have contacted me because they really wouldn't have a problem because they'd realize there's nothing I can do about it. So why worry about it? Have you ever heard it said that 90% of what you worry about never happens?
Absolutely.
So I think Mark Twain said something like, he said, I forget how he said it. You know how he said it? I was worried about so many things, most of which never happened. You know, isn't it like that? We worry about so many things. This is going to happen, that's going to happen. And like 90% never happens. So we can't control things and we're worried about controlling them. And then even most of those didn't even happen. So it's a very disempowering situation, isn't it? You agree, Verda? Tiene sentido. Yeah. So, okay. So the Prabhupada ends going back to this satiation point that you could actually chant all day and never be satiated if you're a pure devotee. Worrying? No. Yeah, here it is. I've spent most of my life worrying about things that have never happened. You know, like you say, but what if this happens? Yeah, and say, well, what if it doesn't? You know, reverse pessimism, you know, well, what if it doesn't? What if the sky falls? What if it doesn't? Yeah. The Prabhus, have a little more faith in Krishna, you know. You're his devotee. That's, you know, he'll protect you. Right? You don't have to like control everything, he'll protect you. So Prabhupada ends the purport by saying, what does he say? Yeah, so no satiation in chanting, discussing the qualities. This is a sign. This is a sign of spiritual progress. That the more you hear, the more you chant, the more you want to hear, the more you want to chant. That's a sign. That's it. You're doing good. Devotees always ask, well, how do I know if my rounds are good? How do I know if my rounds are bad? I think it's a pretty simple answer. It's like saying, how do I know if this sabji tastes good? Okay, sit down and eat it. You know, well, you ate like 4 plates. It must taste good, right? You only had two spoonfuls. Yeah, it must have not tasted well. Yeah. You know, how do I know if my rounds are good? Well, one way to know is you're not falling asleep while you're chanting. That's one way to know. We were just having a program yesterday, and one devotee was chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. That was the mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. And I was thinking, maybe I should do a video about all the various mantras that we chant and pronunciations. It would be quite interesting. Then I would title it, do you know there's more than one Maha Mantra? Yeah, there's many Maha Mantras. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Hare. You know, you've heard all of this, right? So, but specifically, what I was thinking of is when we're chanting, there's no energy there. So you know the story? I think it was the first Janmashtami. The devotees were fasting all day. So after the midnight arti, the devotees thought, oh, finally we get to eat. They're all starving. Prabhupada said, bring out Krishna book. start reading Krishna book. Prabhupada wanted to hear a Krishna book. So they're reading and Prabhupada's relishing. And the devotees are starving. And wow, that was interesting. Devotees are starving. Wow, I just got a backdrop. How did that happen? Me and Christina have moved to Africa. That's pretty, wow, that's amazing. And we're celebrating Halloween. Hare Krishna. Christina's cooking pumpkins now. She likes to cook. So I completely forgot. What was I saying? You remember? Oh yeah, so Prabhupada was reading Krishna book. You know, the devotees thought it's midnight, we're going to get to eat, we're starving. So they read a chapter and the devotees thought, okay, one chapter, you know, we'll finish with one chapter. Well, if you want a backdrop, I have one for you. If you like backdrops. Here's a simple backdrop, right? Make me look smart. Do I like smart now? Like I've read all these books? If you want to look smart, have books in the background. And people think, wow, he's read a lot of books. He must be smart, isn't it? No, it just means he bought a lot of books. Doesn't mean he read them. So Prabhupada is, you know, they finished the chapter and the devotees think, finally, Krishna book chapter, it's finished. Now we can eat. Prabhupada says, next chapter. They finished the next chapter. Oh, finally, we can eat. Prabhupada, next chapter. And then devotees start falling asleep, one after another. So when Parikshit Maharaj was hearing Bhagavatam, and Sukadeva Goswami is like, are you okay? Are you tired? You hungry? Thirsty? Should we take a break? You know, like come back in an hour, you know, have some prasadam, you know, go for a swim in the Ganga. And Parikshit Maharaj said, while I'm listening to you, I'm not hungry, I'm not tired, and I'm not thirsty. This is so sweet. I can't stop listening. So that's, you know, how do I know my rounds are good? Because they taste good. How do I know I'm advancing in spiritual life? Because it tastes good. That's how you know. It's quite simple. So I'm going to stop if you have any questions. Law of diminishing returns. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mahatma Prabhu, for these wonderful pastimes and sharing of Srila Prabhupada. Devotees can indicate by raising their hands if they have a question to ask. Well, I have a question.
Supposed to come at 11. Can you just keep your eye open? Oh, we'll keep the door open. We'll see him. And then when he comes, yeah. I have somebody coming, supposed to come in 5 minutes. So whenever he comes, I'll have to stop. Sadev has a question, or he has many questions.
Okay. I'll let Sadev go first, and then I'll come after him. Sadev, Prabhu, you can go ahead.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Sri Mahatma Prabhuji. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, as you indicated, you don't have enough time because I had lots of questions for you for the class.
You always do.
I don't know why.
The incarnation of questions.
Well, I'll go by the first question. My first question is, you were talking about if I will be, or if any rational human being will be happy embracing or expressing love to a rock. You know, because rock is matter. It's not spirit.
Yes.
And as weird as it is, I saw some few months ago where some women have actually preferred it to marry. I wouldn't say women, a particular woman preferred to marry to a rock.
Yeah, I couldn't understand.
And my question is,
if my wife is stone-hearted, I might as well marry a stone. You know? At least the stone doesn't talk back, right? Something like that.
Well, if everything emanated from Krishna, we are all taking our source from Krishna.
Yes.
Krishna is the fountainhead of consciousness.
Yes.
And if everything emanating from Krishna, as explained by the first invocation of Sri Upanishad, is complete and whole, then how does something coming out of Krishna become matter and as such becomes
Oh,
death?
yeah. Yeah. You know that song by Titikshava Karunaka? It all comes from Krishna. You've ever heard that song? It all comes from Krishna. Prabhupada gave the example where who creates shadows? If there's no sun, there's no shadow, right? But we actually create the shadow because we put our back towards the sun. Now there's a shadow, but not really the sun caused the shadow. We actually caused it, right? So as Prabhupada said over and over, matter just means it's a state of consciousness that I'm the enjoyer. Otherwise, there is no matter. And you would not see matter unless, if you see everything belongs to Krishna, you don't see matter. So from Krishna's perspective, there is no matter. It's just from our perspective, there is. So there is no external energy, really. That's just how we see it. For Krishna, it's one energy for Krishna. And we make it external. And so, you know, it's the same world, it's the same matter. It's just, how do you see it? How do you use it? What are you going to do with it? And if you see that this is for Krishna, there is no matter. And if you see that everything's for me, there is no spirit. Even though technically there is spirit in matter. But for us, there isn't. You're like an atheist. For him, there's no God. So there is God, but for him, there isn't. So it's the same idea. You know, how can Krishna not be Krishna if he is Krishna? Because people don't believe he exists. So for them, he doesn't. And he's sitting in their heart. They look in their heart. What do they find? A vacuum. Nothing. Krishna's hiding. Anybody home there? No sound. Nothing. The devotee had, anybody home there? Yes. Tadambi Buddhi Yogam Tam. I'm guiding you. There's, you know, the atheist says, I look everywhere and I don't see God. How can you say there's a God? And the theist says, how could you not see God? So one lady said, you know, I don't see God. You know, I don't believe in God. I don't see him. And Prabhupada said, you don't see him? She said, no. He said, I see him. You don't see him? You don't see God? I see him. So the atheist sees God nowhere. The theist sees God everywhere. They're looking at the same thing. So is the tree spiritual or is it material? Depends who's looking at it. Look at that woman. Sahadev says, oh, that woman, she's just an ordinary woman. But Gopinath says, no, that's my mother. It's not an ordinary woman. So he's looking at her and he's feeling love and affection. And Sahadev it's just another woman. Nothing. They're looking at the same woman, completely different vision, right? So is that a wonderful woman or is just another woman? Well, it depends who's looking at her, right? And it's not her fault that you see her like an ordinary woman. It's just, she's not your mother. So, yeah. So, but I think the essence of this answer is that, you ever read that saying, we create our own heaven and enjoy the bliss, or we create our own hell and burn in it? So it's kind of like, you know, is this life heaven or hell? Depends how you make it. You know, like these men or sometimes women say, oh, marriage, it's hell. But really what they're saying is, my marriage was hell. Or maybe they should say, I don't know, I was the worst husband that God ever created. Maybe they should say that, or the worst wife God ever created. It's totally subjective, right? Is marriage hell? Well, some marriages are. Is marriage blissful? Some marriages are blissful. So what is it? Is it blissful or hell? Depends. Depends how you do it. So is there God or no God? Is there matter or spirit? Depends. It's not, from Krishna's point of view, only spirit, only love, nothing else. Sahadev has now a rebuttal to that answer. He's going to ask his next question. Is that true? You have another question? No question. Oh, yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you for the answer, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm really satisfied with the answer.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think I have a question.
Okay.
When you were describing Krishna as the supreme controller, you drifted into Srila Prabhupada, how he answers questions, and it was just bringing my mind to some things that have always been crossing my mind. I'm always thinking, how is it like to be directly with a pure devotee of Krishna? Because
What's it
Srila
like?
Prabhupada, how is it
Yeah.
like to be with a pure devotee of Krishna? Because I've seen Srila Prabhupada read so many Prabhupada responses to questions. From nowhere, Prabhupada would just respond as if this question is already planned and then pre-set
Oh, yeah,
ahead
yeah,
for
yeah,
him.
yeah.
So I'm just wondering, and since you have that great opportunity to work directly with Srila Prabhupada, just give me some realizations. What it's like.
The way we perceived it, it was like Super Soul was just speaking. You ask Prabhupada a question, it's like, okay, it's like talking to Krishna, talking to the Super Soul. And a lot of times he would answer questions in ways we wouldn't have imagined. When you ask a question, sometimes you think, oh, maybe he'll say this or that. And then Prabhupada would say something. It was like in another universe, like, wow. And part of the reason is because Prabhupada could see our mentality. And so sometimes he wouldn't even answer the question we asked because it didn't relate, it wasn't important or it didn't relate to us. And he would answer another question, which was a question we should have asked or a question that relates to us. And a lot of times we would think, oh, Prabhupada didn't understand the question. But the reality was that you didn't understand what question to ask. So he's answering the question you should have asked. Or he's answering to your mentality, but you don't understand it. Like one time they said, Prabhupada, how do we get determination to follow the principles? And the Prabhupada said, by following the principles. And the devotee thought, oh, Prabhupada didn't understand the question because, what kind of answer is that? You get determination to follow the principles by following the principles. He said, Prabhupada, no, I mean, how do you get the determination to follow? And Prabhupada said, you already made a vow. You can't ask that question. It's too late. That's not the question you make after you make a vow. How do I do it? You go home to your wife, after work and say, I have a question for you. How do I stay married to you? Slap you in the face, you idiot. You already committed, right? So Prabhupada said, you made a vow, you just follow, and Krishna will give you the strength. Oh, he's here. Yeah. And Krishna will give you the strength. You just make the vow. That's the answer. I have to go. My guest has come. Is that okay? I have your permission?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I feel like we should have you like every day on this platform. It's so wonderful having you with us. So I think I will ask all of you.
He's going to come and say hello to you. Okay.
Okay, good. Wonderful.
Or maybe he's not. Okay. Tell him to come in. Tell me he's going to say hello to Nigeria.
Oh, wonderful.
He's a surprise. I won't tell you who he is. Okay. Yeah. With Prabhupada, you didn't really know. You could never know what he would say and what he would do. It's just, it was exciting. And sometimes the same question would be asked, and you think, oh, I know the answer, and give the opposite answer. Okay, special guest, let's have a big hand. You can say hello. Here, why don't you sit here and say hello? This is Nigeria.
Wow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Oh, whoa. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful to see everybody. How many devotees are here?
We got 20 on this platform right now.
Wow. I don't know what to say. I'm very happy to see you. Devotees always bring life to our heart. Just the faces. I remember Satchidananda Swami once said that we can't see Krishna, but we see Krishna in the light of the eyes of the devotees. And it's really true.
Wow. Nice.
Special souls. Hare Krishna. Well, that was it.
Till we meet again.
Thank you. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhuji, thank you for being here. We really enjoy your travels with His Holiness Indradumna Maharaj so much. And we hope someday you may perform some kirtans with us on this platform also.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd rather be there with you in person.
Yeah.
That's much better. Yeah.
As one of my friends said, we're a little zoomed out.
Yeah.
But anyway, somehow or other to get your association. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we request all of the devotees to please kindly loudly chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to appreciate Mahatma Prabhu for this wonderful association and our special guest. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna,
Hare Ram, Hare Ram,
Rama, Hare
Vachakarpatarubhyascha kripasinubhyascha patitanam pavishnyo vaishnavam.
Bye.
Namo Namaha.
Bueno, Haribol devotos, Hare Krishna.
I didn't realize you were on the phone.
Okay, devotees, thank you very much. We meet again tomorrow. Same time. Hare Krishna.